those new engines have a Darley Fast Foam 150 foam neutron, which is new to us. We hadn't seen those before, and they're developed for engines like ours fairly recently based on another model they have, which is very similar. This one's just it's kind of metered down a little bit to be more applicable to the things we do with our types of engines. So we get our engines, and then we couldn't use them for a while, and then all of a sudden we could use them, and we went out and started fighting fire and burning and doing all the wonderful firefighting, water handling stuff we do with our fire engines, and they're starting to do some weird things. It's like, whoa, why isn't this thing turned off? And these things are all broken. And that was the perspective, certainly my perspective. I looked at one, late at night, and it's clicking along. I'm like, this thing's not working right. Something's broken. So that marinated for a couple of days, and some phone calls went out to manufacturers back and forth. And finally, I got in touch with Darley. They called me and said, "Hey, I hear you're looking at some issues with your fast foams." And I finally sat down with the book that comes in the engine, which I will make available to everybody, just in case you don't have one. Finally sat down and read through this thing a few times, and now I actually understand how it works. And by understanding how it works, I have a much better idea of the problems we may or may not actually be having. There could be some issues that are still floating around out there. We'll have to kind of drill down to the specifics with individual operators who've had problems, but I think we got most of it figured out. So what I'd like to do is a couple of videos here just to help explain how the system works, so people have a better idea of what that looks like. The book really has a lot of good info, but it's a manual. The manuals are a little hard to understand sometimes, hard to disseminate to some degree or another. So we'll walk through the principles of operation, and then we'll do a piece of principles of operation being just how it works, how it functions, and then we'll take a look at how to prime it, and we have at least one trick that may be useful in that, and we'll look at how to turn on and use it, and then a couple of things we've noticed that it does, just to put everybody's mind at ease. So that's the game plan. Okay, so we'll take a look here. What do we have? We have our control panel that's mounted up here with all of our ability to move things around, on-off switch, and the foam unit itself is inside the box here. Let's take a look at the components. Matt, hit me with the questions if I don't make any sense. And component-wise, I'm just going to walk down this and just kind of point to what it actually is saying. Darley Fast Foam is a balanced pressure Venturi proportioner. Ooh, that's complicated. Means that the water pump makes pressure, right? Mm-hmm. It makes 100 psi. The foam pump, it also makes pressure, and it actually makes whatever it makes for psi, but there's a metering device in there that balances it to the same pressure as the water tank, water pump system, so that they're the same pressure. So when the foam comes into it, it's not injecting it at high pressure, it's bringing it up to the Venturi at the same pressure. And then of course when you hit a Venturi, you have a low pressure point which will draw that foam in. So it's kind of a pump it in there, and it's kind of a Venturi suction type of thing, combo plate. It's actually kind of a cool design. I'm optimistic. Let's put it that way. Okay. So the first piece there, I read the first part, but then A. What's A say?
Foam concentrate is drawn from reservoir into concentrate pump through the yellow line.
To the yellow line. Yes. Let's find the yellow line. All right. So on the instructions, which I already said were good, it says that foam concentrate comes from the tank. Is that what it called it?
From the reservoir.
Reservoir, okay, reservoir or foam cell or foam tank. We use all those terms interchangeably. Through the yellow line. See this black line? That black line is actually the yellow line. Why do we call it a yellow line? Anybody? Why is my... Okay, the foam concentrate goes through that Y strainer and it goes into that clear and white tube. And from there, we move over to behind the panel, right? There we go, behind the panel. All right, and this tube here comes into this three-way. We'll get to the three-way in a minute. Why do we call it the yellow line? Matt, if you flip to the next page, there's a diagram. On that diagram, let's go focus, there's a yellow line. It's not yellow on the truck, it's yellow on the diagram. The instructions are referencing the diagram, not the truck. Unfortunately, we have colored lines on the truck, and they're different colors than what's on the diagram. And as unfortunate as that is, it is what it is, and we should be able to figure it out. So that's part of the reason why we're doing this little demonstration here. So we know where the yellow line is. That's our supply. What's the next piece that it's talking about?
B, the foam concentrate is discharged into the pilot-operated relief valve assembly through the purple line.
Is discharged into the pilot-operated relief valve assembly through the purple line. Okay, so what's that really mean? Let's look at the diagram so we see what the purple line is.
That's the pilot-operated relief valve.
All right, so here's your concentrate pump, and right here's your foam reservoir. It comes into the foam pump. We'll just call it a foam pump, and then it discharges out to that relief valve. That work. So it comes in here, right? And this guy is the selector, and right at the moment he happens to be selected on bring foam in from here. Goes into the foam pump, and then it comes up to this guy, okay, underneath, and it's not like obvious. This guy. My arm's in the way of the camera. There we go, that guy right there. That is your pilot-operated pressure relief. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's your pilot-operated pressure relief.
Relief valve assembly.
Valve assembly, yes. So, it goes to there, and then...
Ready for the next one?
Yeah, hit me with the next one.
The pilot-operated relief valve maintains concentrate pressure to match the water pressure. The pilot pressure, blue line, is taken from the main check valve.
Okay, so, this guy makes sure that your foam pump, which is pushing, it can make lots and lots of pressure, way more than we ever want. It is making sure that this valve makes sure that the pressure that this pump produces when it comes out this line, which feeds to the injection point, we'll call it an injection point, Venturi, is the same pressure as your water pressure. How does it do that? Come back here, and this line right here, by the way, okay, so here's my Venturi right in here. This is my number 3 discharge. Okay, this little line here, this tees off, and this guy runs, this guy, I gotta look through the screen, runs back to that control valve, that pilot-operated pressure relief assembly.
The blue.
Okay, this is the blue line. What color is it? It's black. Yes. Okay, on the other side, there's one that looks awfully similar to it, but that's actually just a drain. Okay, so that guy flows all the way over there and comes into the back. He actually comes into the bottom of that guy right there. You can kind of see it. Yeah, good luck. We'll see. I can't force the focus, but it comes into the bottom of the center of that pressure relief system. And then what happens?
The pilot-operated relief valve controls the concentrate pressure by allowing excess concentrate to flow back into the reservoir through the green line.
Okay, so that's green line on the chart, not on the truck. That would be this right here. Okay, so that is tank return. So there's your tank return line, and that guy right here happens to be black. God, everything's black so far. That's unfortunate. It goes down and back and turns that way. Okay, and he comes back in here. He's underneath. He's behind this pipe. We'll climb up on top so you can actually see it. And goes right there through that valve. Quarter turn valve. This one here, not this one. That's a drain. This one here. Okay, so that guy needs to stay open most of the time. There is a time when you have to close that. Most of the time it stays open. Okay, Matt, hit me again. Next.
So this one's long. No water is flowing through the venturi. The water pressure at the injection point is equal to the concentrate pressure. In this condition, all the concentrate flows through the pilot-operated relief valve and back to the reservoir.
Okay,
no
so
concentrate flows into the water in a no water flow condition.
So here's the way that works. I'm pushing, say, this is 100 psi. Okay, that's 100 psi coming down here, and it comes down to here, and this guy. So here's my venturi, right? I have 100 psi coming through it. This guy picks it up, it reads it. It tells the pilot automatic pressure relief valve assembly that we're at 100 psi. The pilot automatic pressure relief assembly says, okay, we're going to push 100 psi worth of foam at the venturi. Okay, that'd be this line right here. And to trace that back, there's a foam pump on the top behind that pilot valve. It's called a pilot valve for short. This guy comes out up here to the back of your on-off switch and your metering device, and it comes down. And I lost it, but it comes down into that guy, right? Whatever, doesn't matter. Basically, it comes all the way to here. All right, so at 100 psi, and if I'm not moving any water, I have 100 psi coming in here, and I have 100 psi in this system, and it's static. Nothing's moving, so there's no venturi. Because if water's not moving, I'm not going to get a venturi. That venturi is based on movement of water, and as soon as I move water, even at 100 psi, the venturi causes a low pressure point in the middle of that venturi, which then sucks the foam in. Sucks is not the right term. Draws. We'll say draw. You know, suck kind of works, but draw is really what we're getting at. So it draws the foam concentrate in here, which is pressurized, but it's pressurized the same as the rest of the plumbing, and it pulls in some of that concentrate. Rather than a straight injection that has to be metered, I don't know, it's kind of a cool system. The physics theory on it works. I haven't used it enough to say it's good or bad, but again, I'm optimistic.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
When water flows, the venturi creates a pressure drop. The concentrate pressure is equal to the pilot water pressure. The concentrate enters the plumbing after the venturi pressure drop.
I think we just explained that.
Yep.
Okay, now the other piece with that, if the pressure in here is 0, then the pressure coming out of that pilot valve assembly is going to be 0. So here it's going to be 0. So if you're running out of water, that thing's still pumping, but it's pumping it all back into your tank or your foam cell.
Yep.
Or your foam reservoir, whatever you want to call it.
All right. The concentrate injection percentage is set with a variable orifice ball valve. Concentrate flows from the pump to the ball valve through the orange line. Concentrate flows from the ball valve into the venturi through the red line.
All of those colors are only functional on that chart because they're all black on the truck.
And that could be this, wouldn't it?
Yes, that is where
Variable orifice.
your variable orifice ball valve is. So as I turn it, the hole gets bigger and bigger.
I didn't notice that earlier, but it explains it right there.
Yeah, that's we're gonna get to that at some point, but we might as well just hit it now. It says turn foam switch to the on position, set injection protection rate. Yeah, low concentrate light is on, foam tank is low. In the little ones, in the little letters there, for flow rates below 15 gallons a minute, foam rates will be richer than indicated. So All that means is if I'm using one Forester at 7 gallons a minute, I'm gonna get more than my, 0.5 or 1% or whatever I wanted. So if I'm using one Forester and I wanted 0.7, I probably want to run it at like 0.4, roughly.
Was that a
It's an
guess?
estimate. Oh yeah, no, it's a total estimate. But when I was talking to the Darley guys earlier, and he was saying, yeah, if you were running it at 0.5, you'd probably get 0.6 or 0.7.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's just going to be a little bit more rich. If you're moving more than 15 gallons a minute, it should be relatively accurate. No matter what, at what point do you really ever need to run a Forester at, or something less than 15 gallons a minute at 1% and get a really effective, to get a really effective foam piece. And the key being that we're not supposed to use more than 1%, even though we've been sim flowing stuff for years. And anyway, we won't get into that. So yeah, you might just have to meter down a little bit.
So the concentrate check valve is installed to prevent water backflow into the concentrate system.
That is the concentrate check valve?
Yeah.
Look at the diagram. Where's it on the diagram?
Right on the Venturi.
So what that is this guy right here is a check valve. This square is a check valve. And actually there's stuff scratched on the top of it, which basically demonstrates that it's a check valve. Okay.
The main check valve is installed to prevent concentrate backflow into the water pump and water tank. So that's the thing that it's in.
That is the check valve that's in the plumbing back in here, not in the little stuff, but in the full 1.5 inch stuff.
And then the pressure relief valve is set at, is it 400 or 175?
The pressure relief valve, okay, so the pressure relief valve, according to the instructions, the pressure relief valve is set at 175. The instructions didn't get perfectly corrected to the new 150 model, talking to the Darley guys, and the pressure relief valve, because it automatically stops recording after a few minutes. So where's that pressure relief valve? It's built into that system somewhere, and basically what it's doing is keeping you from so that pressure relief valve shuts down the system if you over pressurize it. Well, they were set at 150, now they're set, these ones for us are set at 400, because we might go up to almost 400 psi in this system, which means that the foam pump is making 400 psi to get foam to come in. So the key piece to recognize there is that the 175 number is not accurate, it's actually 400. And why would that be a problem? Well, if it was set at 175 and I needed 200 psi to pump it, I wouldn't be able to get foam. It would shut down the foam pump because it's over the pressure relief point.
That's it?
And that's it. So, quick recap. Foam comes in from the foam cell, runs down that black line, which on the diagram is a different color, goes through that ball valve, that Y strainer, which needs to be cleaned every once in a while, into that white and clear line that you can sort of see through. And then you have to come back here to this guy. It comes, there's that white and clear valve, comes up to this three-way. And this three-way is, that's flush, because this guy's pointing at flush. You can barely see the words on the side here. Kind of have to tuck your head in there. But that would be your foam flush, it says on it. That would mean it's coming in from this way. We'll get into flushing in a minute. And if I go that way, that's foam coming into the system. It comes up this way, it goes into, there we go, into the foam pump. Okay, that's my foam pump. Foam pump pumps it out to this guy. That guy controls the pressure by controlling the volume. The main concentrate at appropriate pressure comes down this line and up to my selector, which is on the panel. Okay, But the other piece of that is that the extra foam for too much pressure, to manage that pressure, the extra foam goes back to this tank return and it's pumped back into the tank, okay? Or it's pumped out to the ground. That's your foam flush piece. Keep it on the tank when you're just running foam, otherwise you're gonna run out of foam quickly. And back to our three-way selector, not three-way, our variable orifice, basically our percentage, you know, what percentage are we running? You would select it here. Foam then flows down this line, under the exact same pressure as the water pressure, and down this line through that check valve and into the system, and then out that. Clear as mud?
Nailed it.
Okay, hope so. All right, so some questions I came up with when I was just reading the instructions, all of which have been answered. What's the minimum flow? Well, it'll actually work for anything, but if you're under 15 gallons a minute, it's gonna mix richer than what you have on this. So at 0.3%, if I'm only moving 7 gallons a minute, I'm probably gonna get, 0.4, 0.5%. So adjust accordingly as needed if it's even that critical. How's that, let's see, minimum flow is, how's that measured? Well, it's measured by pressure, and the fact that if I'm moving volume, the pressure in the venturi, or the vacuum, the low pressure in the venturi will draw more of that pressurized foam into it. Okay. If you look at the diagram, and at point C here, it says the pilot pressure, which is the line, that's the blue line. Okay, we gotta go mobile. Okay, so to get the pilot valve to run the appropriate pressure, it's this line. There's my venturi. There's the pressure metering reading line that runs back to that pilot valve. That tells the pilot valve what pressure to push the foam up to the venturi at. So according to the instructions, this needs to be on the other side of this check valve, this main check valve in the 1.5-inch line. It needs to be back here somewhere. Talking to Darley, they said, no, it's okay that it's up here. You're still gonna get the same pressure readings. I was concerned that possibly the pump would overcome it. They're telling me, no, not a problem, not gonna happen. It's going to shut off. When the pressures equalize, it will shut off. It's not pushing enough pressure into the system to overcome it and increase it, and therefore, like, have the hell's the word I'm looking for?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either. It's not going to keep building pressure in that system because of the foam pump. The only reason they would prefer to see it on the other side is to keep foam solution out of the pilot controlled pressure relief valves assembly. But if the first time you run this thing, you run it with clear water, you're gonna have clear water in that, and it's not necessarily gonna come out unless you drain the entire system. So most of the time it's gonna have clear water in it anyway, and a little bit of solution is not gonna kill it. Okay. Back to the questions I came up with. That's pretty much most of them. The pressure relief valve is set at 175 psi to prevent damage to the concentrate pump, and that's actually at 400 psi because of the pressure relief valve. You see where the pressure relief valve is, it goes from one side to the other side of the, what the heck was that thing called? Pilot operated relief valve control. The pilot control valve piece there. So if we were limited to 175, we wouldn't be able to pump water at 200 without, or with foam. It wouldn't work because it would shut the foam pump off. But ours is not at 175, it's at 400. Any of the extra pressure gets dumped into the tank via just, moving foam concentrate into the tank. And what happens if I run out of water? Well, if you run out of water, you have 0 PSI. So 0 PSI is going to be going down to the Venturi. And if you're below 10 PSI, the foam pump's gonna turn itself off. Okay.
And no flow.
Flow's irrelevant, it's only pressure.
But doesn't flow cause the Venturi across?
Correct. You're not gonna suck any in because there's no, so if I'm sitting here and I have 100 PSI, and this is something that's going to happen, we'll demonstrate it here in a minute, but if I have 100 PSI sitting in that system, the foam pump thinks it has 100 PSI, so it's putting 100 PSI up to that. But no foam's going in because there's no flow, so there's no Venturi, so it's just static pressure equal on both pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why when I fire this thing up, I can flip that switch. Now, we don't have any pressure in the system, but if I flip that switch and I hear my foam pump going, it's not injecting foam, it's circulating foam back into the tank. And it's giving me whatever pressure is residual in that system up to it until it gets running.
So that's that valve controlling which way it goes, right?
No, that is the pilot control valve, the funny looking black UFO looking thing in there. Okay. That guy, not this guy. This guy tells it either to go to the tank, this valve here, let's go to the tank or go to the ground.
Yeah, that's no, this thing
Yes.
telling you to either go into the system or into the tank.
Correct. That is correct. Okay, those are my big things. Now we'll do a primer.